Well, hello, and welcome back. I'm AJ O'Neill, and we're gonna do some coding. We're gonna do it live-ish, as live as we are. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do, basically, the overview here is that I've got some code in Node.js that I believe. Well, I want to extend to make sure that it works in the browser as well, and yeah, it's for an API. So basically, the difference between SDK and API. SDK is software development kit. Basically means that the tools that you get, the library that you get. The API is the endpoints themselves. We're not really to release the endpoints because the endpoints are going to need some massaging, but we can release a software library that gives you a documented list of things that you can do, and then obscure away the API itself. And then later on, we can release the API and start versioning it and make it public and everything. Anyway, so before we get started, one thing that I want to make sure that I do is give ample time to a word from our sponsor, but not really our sponsor, Mr. Mountain Dew. So pop it out, my friends, and open focus. All right, there we go. And again, I got it all over me. Oh, well. Okay. So, let's see. First thing I think I need to do, I don't know if I've got this folder on here or not. Okay, I do have this folder on here. Great. All right, let's, oh, we have a test folder. Let me check out master. Let's see what we get. Okay. I don't even remember what the difference is here. I'm ahead by one commit. What commit is that? Yo. I'm ahead by the commit. Yo. Let's do a git diff on that. Nothing. There's literally nothing in that commit. Okay. Well. Let me see that git log. Literally nothing different. I'm gonna try this one more time. Git diff. Nope. Okay. Then we're just gonna do git reset -- hard head 1. Well, let me not do -- hard, just because I'm still... Oh, there's a foo. There's nothing in it. There's just an empty foo. It's probably testing a deploy or something. And then, let's see. Do we got any other things open? I'm looking at all of my open windows right now. I don't need this one. I don't need this one. I'm just going to get rid of some stuff. I don't need that one anymore. I don't need this one or this one. We're all good there, and I don't need that one. Okay, so I'm just getting rid of some stuff so I can make sure that I've got just what I need to focus on in front of me. And then I'm gonna check, what are the branches here? So I've got a master, and then we've got a main. Okay, get pull-u origin main. Get pull origin main. Huh, interesting. Let me go double check on this. Interesting. I could have sworn that we had... I want to update our organization settings real quick. Let's see. Choose another branch. Whatever. Edit. You know, at first I was, just because of the political nonsense, I was against the whole master main bit, but I do honestly like the name main better. It is a bit more descriptive, less technical, and not that it should ever matter, but it's a few characters shorter to type, so there's that. Oh, hey, welcome. I'm AJ. I'd love to know who you are, what brings you to the channel tonight. Please give me any questions. I am actually doing real work stuff, but you can give me questions. We can chat a little bit. You can tell me who you are, where you're from, what you do. Give me any tips that you have. Okay, I think I'm going to open this up elsewhere real quick and just make sure that at the organizational layer, Greek Bonds. Hey, Greek Bonds. So I don't think I've seen you on the channel before. So what brings you today? How did you end up here? Okay, so I'm just going in at an organizational level and changing the default branch. I don't even know where that goes. Repository defaults, I think. Okay, yeah, it is there. All right, just as well. Okay, and let's see. Is there any difference between the two? Hey, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining in. Welcome. So I'm AJ, and we're doing some real work stuff here today. I'd love to know who you are, where you're from, and what brings you to the channel today. If you're a returning visitor, it's always nice to say hello so I know who's there. Okay. So I'd already started on this on a different computer, but I didn't get very far. It was just more exploratory, so I'm going to redo a little bit of work and it's going to be just fine. I'm going to double check that I didn't push that branch because often I do push the branches that I'm working on. I got that test branch there. I don't think that's the right one, but I could double check just in case. But basically what we want to do is under main, we want to have a browser. And here we can say all the files that we're going to substitute. So I'm going to have a lib request.js. That's what the node file is going to be called. And this is a Webpack thing. So if you're not familiar with Webpack, you're in good company. I'm not very familiar with Webpack myself. But I've done this in a couple of places. I'm going to have to go look at the places where I've done it to check it out. But essentially, this makes it so that when your code gets Webpack compiled, anywhere that there is a reference to lib request, it will replace that reference with lib browser request. So that's what we're going to be doing here. And then I'm going to go just this bit of code. I'll explain it in just a second. I just was looking at this the other day, so I know exactly what I'm doing here. But I'll give me just a second. I'm going to put in another file, and then once I get it to the other file, then I'll explain it. But here's our lib request.js. I think this is just a good strategy in general. Dependencies that need options that you might need to use throughout your application, put them, if they have some sort of initialization, put them in their own file. That way you've got it documented throughout your code base where they're expected to have those same defaults, and you don't get caught up with having initialized something over in file A and then using it over in file B and then being completely confused why is the behavior not the default behavior. Let's see here. And then module.export equals request. Okay, and I'll explain this in just a second. Let me check out the comments here. Found you through Good First Issue on Twitch. Did a tiny bit of contributing to Webby as Dev Palacio. Switching gears from helicopter avionics tech to software developer soon, hopefully. Well, that's cool. And thank you for contributing to Webby. Yes, on Twitter. I thought that's what that was going to mean. Okay, and then Simon from Norway found Telebit and wanted to know if the developer could be trusted. Found the root company and your YouTube channel. It convinced me it will be maintained. Well, we shall see. So Telebit in its current form as the Node version, that one is probably going to go the way of the Dodo, but there's a Go version that's on the horizon. So we could talk more about that. Feel free to ask me questions. But Telebit itself, telebit.io, I do maintain, but there's very little maintenance at this point. It just works, right? The Telebit node library I have not made changes to in quite a while, but the new version that's going to replacing it in Go, I will be streaming that as I'm doing it. And John McDonald. Oh, wait, what? Kai Hendry. Oh, we get it. Sorry. I first read Kai Hendry here. I thought Kai was coming back under a different name. Okay. Kai Hendry recommended your channel. Okay. Tuning in from Eastern Canada. Well, hello to all of you. Thanks for joining in. So what I'm doing here, this first bit, is, let's see, do I want to do it like that? Yes, I do. I do. Okay. So I'm creating a request object and I'm setting its user agent. One thing that you should do, this is actually part of an RFC spec, whenever you're using an API, you should set the user agent of your request to be your application. And so what I do is root request, which I wrote, will append the whole, it'll do the whole RFC user agent string, and you can put in the very first part that goes in, which would be the name of your package and the version of your package. And then, let's see, what was this one about? Oh, okay, got it. Package main. So there's two packages there. Yeah. Got it. And then the rest of it, the node version, the operating system version, stuff like that is appended by root request. So you get an RFC compliant user agent that is useful for API vendors to know who's using their products, are versions being updated, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the node bit, and that's going to be what it is. But now I'm going to create the browser bit. And we're going to see. So now I need to basically do the same thing, but I need to do it with fetch. So module.exports equals request. I'm going to go ahead and do like this. So I don't actually use, I tend to do the same thing the same way over and over and over again, and not to use lightweight or silly abstractions. I prefer to have, if I need an abstraction, it needs to do something important. I do not like, for example, Lodash I think is completely stupid. I think it's great that it's there, but it should be a copy and paste, not a library, because there's no point in creating a dependency on 100 different functions when you need two of them. So anyway, the request library originally, it has 1,600 different ways that you can use it, which I think is silly. All we need is exactly this right here. Just take a request object, have a method, a URL, a payload, headers, etc. We don't need to have a request.post, request.get, request.this, request.that. It's kind of obnoxious, really. Better to just have, I like to optimize for the least amount of mental load. So rather than having to learn 15 nuanced different ways to use it, it's just one way to use it. And it always works. And that is what I prefer. And I think that's generally the right thing to do. It's actually the better thing to do. Window.fetch, and then fetch is going to do what? Ops.url, and I think here method, ops.method, and then this would be or. This actually, no, this should do the right thing. It should be undefined. But if this is not defined, then if I'm not mistaken, if there is a body, then it is set to a post. And I mean, if there is not a body, it is set to a get. If there is a body, it's set to a post. Okay. And then let's see. And the company that I'm working for, Savvy, what we do is it's primarily geared towards growth stage businesses, but we handle, it's called a data room. We handle the data rooms for companies when they have financial events, legal events, etc. Data room basically just means the data that interested parties want to share with one another. So it could be hiring documents, it could be equity documents, it could be company formation documents. But we handle helping companies go through the stages of the formation and the onboarding of founders and employees, etc. We just help with all of that paperwork / documentation type stuff. And then we make it accessible as this thing called the data room, which is an industry term. If you're not part of the industry, then you're not as familiar with that term, but if you're in the industry, then you know the term. I think it originated in law, but because as founders go through investment, et cetera, everybody's got lawyers involved, so that legal terminology just kind of bleeded over. Anyway, so we got fetch. We're going to have the method, and I'm trying to remember if I needed to set any other special options. This one, let's see, if I remember correctly, we could use let here. Body is equal to, so we got body, if ops.json, then, let's see, we need headers too. Headers should be ops.headers or this. And then we would say if not ops dot, I guess actually not dot, but content type. Then content type will be equal to application JSON. By the way, you'll see in some rare circumstances, you will see, whoops, hold on, my tools are not installed. I just reinstalled Node, and I think I may have gotten rid of JS Hint and Prettier by mistake. Let me reinstall those, because I just updated to Node 1.16.1, or was it, no, v16.10.1? I don't know, whatever we're at these days. What is it? We're at 16.13.1. Yes, the 0.1 just came out the other day. Sometimes you'll see this. Char set equals UTF-8. This is actually incorrect because the JSON implies UTF-8 because that's part of the spec already, but there's some parsers out there that require it / don't require it. When you encounter those situations, it's because it's a bug. Okay, so if we have that, then body is equal to ops.json. This would be json.stringify like this. And then, let's see, headers is going to be headers. And I think it is called just body, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody correct me if I'm getting that wrong, if I'm not remembering it correctly. Okay, so I think there's some other options that we might need to set as well. I think cores is going to be one of them that we're going to need to set. Let me go check that out real quick. MDN fetch. Let me go look at cores. Cores. Seriously? Okay, cores here. Mode. Cores, yes. Control what browsers do with cookies. Authentication must be one of the following strings. Always use any credentials sent back in the response. So I don't know if that's going to matter. I'm going to go with credentials include on this. So mode is going to be what? Cores, and credentials is going to be include. So what do y'all do? We got Dev Policio is helicopter avionics tech, which that's pretty awesome. And then Simon and John, what are y'all up to? Are you longtime coders, beginner coders? Okay, credentials, mode, body, headers, method. I think we have all of those. Cache. I think that we should just trickle that down. So cache is ops.cache. We could do ops.credentials. I like to prefer there we go. What was given as raw as possible. All right. Oh, Jay, super beginner. Start a Hack Reactor program that teaches React in January. Trying to get as much knowledge before I start. Well, that is a good thing to do. The people that put in the effort before going to the bootcamp type things get the most out of it. That is 100% certain. I've seen people at boot camps that really, another thing is, if you don't like it, just don't go. Just cancel. Get your money back. Don't do it. I've seen people go and just waste their money and their time not having prepared, and then not engaging when they go. And it is sad because you want to see people succeed, but you got to put in the effort. So you're doing the right thing. So feel free to ask all the dumb questions. I will answer them as best as I can. All right. So there we go. So I did my fetch. This is basically the same way that I'm going to use the request object. Yeah, I think this should cover it. There might be some other things that I might want to add in here. I don't know. Hops redirect maybe. Interesting. So in Golang, this is called a context. Apparently JavaScript now has context objects, except they're called signals. I did not know about that. Well, I knew about it, but I've not actually used them yet. I haven't come into cases where I really have to. But it's good that they're there. Whenever you have something that's asynchronous, it's nice to be able to say, hey, the thing that's driving this async process, abort it. Okay. Init. What was it saying? Oh, that's so weird. Why would they call that init rather than calling it options? Meh. Delarn, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Good to see you again. On line 12, why do you pass an empty object? Let's go to line 12 here. So headers. So I'm wrapping a request function, and headers may or may not be given. And so the or here is saying headers should be whatever headers have been defined, if they've been defined. Otherwise, it should at least be an empty object. Does that make sense? Oh, and actually, thanks for pointing that out, because now I realize I had typed this wrong. Well, I guess this should just be this way. Here we go. Yeah, that should work. There we go. And so likewise, this is saying, if I've already defined content type, I don't want to change it. Let the manual override be the manual override. But if I haven't, then it's going to be application JSON. Let's see. Well, I just seen this comment from Jay. So as a veteran, it's fully funded. I'll try to be mindful of the taxpayer dollars, though. I appreciate that. Thank you. As someone who pays taxes, I do appreciate that. Well, I hope that you learn a lot. Again, hit me up with any questions that you got. Okay, so we're kind of jumping into the middle of this thing already having been created. Oh, this needs to move. So I'm getting an underline in my editor. By the way, for those of you that are newbies, this is the most important resource I can give you. Well, the two most important resources I can give you, I'm going to let you know right now. This is webinstall.dev, is affectionately known as Webby. And this is how you can install lots of different tools on Windows, Linux, and Mac. And it's predominantly Mac and Linux, but many of the tools, if not most of the tools, are also available for Windows as well. But these are the tools that you'll want to use as a developer. Not necessarily all of them, but many of them. And this is the best way to install these things. So there's no better way to install Node. This uses the official Node installer, but the official Node installer has a bug in the way that it treats file system permissions on Mac. And this will use the Node official installer, but will not cause it to, will not let it execute that bug. The same thing with some of these other things. Python is notoriously terrible to install and can possibly mess up your system. Install Python this way, it won't mess up your system. So that there, and then Creeds of Craftsmanship. These are the best papers, talks, resources, creeds, etc. that I have come across. Creeds of Craftsmanship. So I'll link you to that if you want to go take a look at that. Those are the best resources I can point anybody who is a beginner at. So, and those are always linked in my doobly-doo as well. Okay, let me see what else we got here. Thank you for your How to Get Fish on Windows video. I uploaded 9 months ago, just found that the other day. Yeah, you are welcome. I'm glad that you found it useful. Electronics technologist. Oh, cool. A bit of coding work at C++. Check out Rust, by the way. It's a kind of a replacement for C++. I'd like to do more. Never really looked into learning JS before. JS is a difficult one to get started with. I'd recommend, there's a paradox here. Go is the easiest language to learn. It is highly profitable. It is highly sought after. And it is, it's a very beginner-friendly language with extremely good and simple concepts. The paradox is, most people that go into Go have learned something else before. And so a lot of the resources are not as beginner friendly as even resources for more advanced languages like Rust. But Go is definitely the best path to learn programming as a software engineer. And then you can take whatever you learn from Go and you can apply that to Rust and you can apply that to other languages. But JavaScript's kind of hard because the materials out there are so bad. Whoops, I had this thing in the wrong place here. Let me get rid of this. That actually goes into this file is where this goes. There we go. Yeah, see, it's complaining about it right there. Okay, so I'm just going to put that up top. And the way that I typically arrange my requires or imports or whatever is, and you'll find this is common among many different languages, is people generally do things that are in the standard library first, then things that are in your own, that are part of the project you're working on, and then third-party libraries, or they'll be listed alphabetically. But I list them alphabetically usually, sometimes. I love the Go tooling because Go will do this for you automatically. Anyway, the rearrange the imports alphabetically, but it also allows you to have groups for them. Okay, let me get out of here. Sorry, I'm going to get back. Got to get my train of thought back here. Okay, so how are we going to do this? We've got this init where I can take a username or password. That's probably not going to work for the browser. I'm going to have to get a little demo page up for the browser and kind of test this out and see how we do. Let's see. Does installing Fish also set up ZSH? No, the two are unrelated projects. ZSH comes by default on all Macs now. It's the default shell for OS X, but I think that they kind of are, I don't know, too far behind. They might as well just stick with Bash for the default shell. Bash, if you write scripts, you need to write them in Bash. There's nuanced differences between Bash and ZSH, and you want your scripts to be in Bash always. Unless you want them to be in Bourne shell, which is the original, more or less, shell. But the nuanced differences between Bash and Bourne, generally speaking, it's better just to write in Bash and assume that you have Bash unless you know that you need Bourne shell. But ZSH is a layer up where, yeah, there's a lot of niceties, but they're just not, I don't know that they're that much nicer. I don't know that they're worth learning. I haven't really bothered to learn them, so perhaps I'm not qualified to say that, but you'll never write a script in ZSH for something that goes somewhere or is useful to people other than a ZSH plugin. Same thing with Fish. I would never recommend writing in Fish, but Fish gives you a very nice shell experience with the autocomplete and all that. Context switching ability is impressive. It might be worse than you think. Let's see. Also, the new Mac setup you did, AJ, when you did install Xcode and set up Git on the machine, don't you think you went through that stuff? What? Sorry. When did you install Xcode and set up Git on the machine? Don't think you went through that stuff on the vid. Okay, real quick. Xcode select install. That's it. That's how you install the Xcode and Git and all the developer tooling, essentially. So that, and then Webby. And so I do that. That takes a few minutes. It downloads a package. It's kind of maybe a 5-10 minute thing. It says it takes 2 hours, but then as soon as it starts going, it goes really quick. Maybe it takes 15-20 minutes on a bad day. And then I just do Webby. I mean, my whole environment setup is I run Webby Essentials, and then boom, I've got everything that I need for my vimRC and all that. Anyway, so I got the login here. Yeah, that's the thing that we're going to need to test maybe first. So let me think about this. Do we currently, in our dev environment, I might want to spoof something here. Because I might need to log into our dev environment and allow local host. Actually, I think we do allow local host. I'm going to go check something real quick. Let me go over here. Boop. And I'm going to go into server. And I don't know what that one was. That's probably really old. Let's check out. No, it's master on this one. Okay. I need to look and see where's our core stuff. Cores, origins. Where do we set origins? Origins. Okay, if development, then localhost. I also should have here HTTPS localhost. The reason for that is that if you're using Caddy, then your localhost has HTTPS. Let's see. So I'm going to put that in there. I don't need to push that though. I can try what I need to try with this. So this is the repository for our API. It's in there. So I just needed to find out what do we have as far as cores goes. Let me move a couple of windows around real quick. I don't think I need these windows on the screen over here. I do have the Discord open. Let's see. Boop. Let's see. By the way, I'll drop a link to the Discord for anybody that wants to join in on the Discord. So Discord, there we go. Okay. And I'll take a look at that comment in just a second, but I need to make sure that I stay on target, you know. So I'm going to need a public directory. Let's create a public directory, mkdir public, and let's throw some stuff in there. We're going to have an index.html. You know, actually, let me just put the index.html right here because, no. Okay, I need to go look at my Webpack project, the project where I have Webpack. I'm trying to remember. I think KeyPairs has Webpack. I'm going to have to go look. GitHub.com, the root company. Let me go check and see if I've got KeyPairs.js here. Request.js. That one doesn't have Webpack yet, I don't think. I'm going to check KeyPairs.js. I'm going to check Acme.js. Not Greenlock itself, though. Yeah, I'm just going to check those real quick. Okay, do we have anything about Webpack in this one? Web, nope. How about this one? Because a couple of these projects I did... Okay, here we go, browser. So this one has Webpack. Do we have a Webpack config at the base? No, so this is just made so that as a library, it can be used the Webpackish way. Okay, what about this one? Webpack Config. There we go. So let me take a look at this and see how I did it here. So entry, output, result. So this is, I think this is what I need, and I don't know if this is the latest version of Webpack. I don't know if this is Webpack 5 or if this was Webpack 4. I'll have to figure that out. I think it's the latest version. Let's check in package and see if we have it under dev dependencies. I'm reluctant to put things like that. Yeah, there we go. Truly optional dependencies. Webpack 4. So now we're on to Webpack 5. I don't know what that's supposed to look like. Let me see. Oh, what's the new thing? Vite? I don't know. There's too many of these things. You just... I don't know. Let me see if I can find Webpack 5 here, and I'll check the comments. Okay, so Mac did a prompt to install Xcode while I was trying to install something else. Is that the same as the Xcode command? Yes, it is. Yeah, so lots of things will check to see if you have Xcode tools. In fact, macOS comes with a bunch of shim commands. So for example, if you check to see if Git is available, it will actually return true that Git is available. But the Git that's available is just a shim command. And when you run that shim command, then it will prompt the Xcode select installer. And then whatever you were doing will probably fail and you'll have to rerun it again. But yeah, the shims will then install the real tools. Okay. I did see you ignore the Mac prompt when you were setting up the machine, so is it okay to go with either Mac prompt or CLI install? It's the same thing, yeah. It's the same thing. I may have ignored it momentarily or just brought it up and then moved it over to the other screen and then clicked install or something like that, or let it run in the background and continued on, because there was one thing that I did when I installed iTerm. iTerm immediately checks to see if Python is available and some Python tooling. And part of that Python tooling, for whatever reason, is part of the Xcode command line tools. And so you will get a prompt, but it's for some sort of optional feature in iTerm 2. So I just continued on with or without it. Okay, so let's say maybe I get lucky and the Webpack config stays mostly the same. Is this what we wanted? Yeah, so output directory, entry directory would be examples app.js, sure. We'll have a dist directory. Alias fields will be Webpack or browser. Main fields will be browser or main. Oh, so this is kind of annoying. So with the different builders that for polymorphic tools, no, is that the right word? Polymorphic? Isomorphic? I forget what the word is, but basically when something can run both in Node and the browser, there are conflicting standards for how to do this. One of them is that that browser should define a string such as index.js but browser.js, and then it should follow all of its requires. And that's how it will resolve it. The other one, which is a lot more sane and makes a lot more sense, is to have this replacement where you just define a map. Replace this with this. And that's how I've done it in Acme.js and a couple of other places. So let's see what Webpack 5 brings to the table. To 5 from 4. Okay. Trace deprecation. I don't know if any of this applies to me. Okay, let's try this and see how it goes. I'm going to do a save dev. This is wrong. I think, yeah. So this should be npm install -- save dev, not npm install, because otherwise it's going to add it as a production dependency. And that would be senseless to add this as a production dependency. Save dev. In fact, what I'd prefer to do is use npx. That's what I do in a lot of places, because you just don't need 100 megabytes of garbage in your package.json to install when somebody's doing something, you know? Rare. Makes me ornery. Keep things small and focused. See, you think, oh, I'm going to add Webpack. Added 71 packages. Okay, but let's just go ahead with this and see what we need to do here. Target. I don't know what this is. Let's see if I've got anything in here about Webpack. That's not maybe enough documentation there. I guess I just kind of assumed if you're using Webpack, you know what to do. I should have wrote more documentation because I don't use Webpack, so I don't know what to do. I've only used Webpack on the handful of occasions that I've had to use it. And I try to make things not break Webpack, but I don't go a whole lot of ways to support Webpack. And for those of you that don't know what Webpack is, I think I kind of already said it, but it's so that it can traverse your code, your JavaScript, and then find the bits that can be shipped to the browser and bundle those together. Okay, Webpack. So let me do npm, let's say npx Webpack at 5. And then I don't know what you do. How do you run this? Webpack build, Webpack dev. Webpack CLI? I don't know. I'm just going to try this and see what happens. Hopefully it gives me a meaningful error. All right, cool. That's great. So that seems to work. So let's go ahead and, okay, dir examples. And then let's make our examples app.js. And then here, I'm just going to do require. How should I do this? I actually don't remember how this is supposed to work. I'm supposed to init this in some way, right? Okay. So environment, I think I'm going to put in here sandbox. Is that what I did? Let me go check. env live. Okay, cool. So we can use sandbox. And then what? ID token, we don't have one. Email, username, password, we don't have any of those. So, and this is going to be an await thing, which is okay because we need to wrap this whole thing in an immediately evoked function expression anyway. So ife, ife. People in the JavaScript community come up with all sorts of weird names for things that maybe don't need them. But when you create a function that you immediately invoke, in fact, let's not do that because it's just a little bit too. No, it's kind of a standard way to do things. We'll leave it. Okay. So when you create a function, so let me just write this out real quick so you can kind of see how silly this is. Okay. So you create a function. Let's say the function is called main. And then let's say, let me just get rid of this to kind of, this is really easy to explain. And then I'm going to call that function main, right? Well, you can take any expression and you can wrap it in parentheses. So I could wrap this whole thing in parentheses, right? And this is valid. And then what I could do is I could just get rid of the name main. And then the function calls itself. That is what this is, an immediately invoked function expression. It's just a function that calls itself. And we could make this async so that it can be happy. And let's see, when I do this, access token, ID token, if password, it does login right then. Okay, so we can hook this up to a login prompt. That's what I want to do. I want to get this thing hooked up to a login. Basically, this does very little. It basically just handles login right now. But what I want to get it to the point of is in Node, it can do a login. If I give it a username and password, I want to make it so that I can create a little demo browser app that can do a login. If I get there, then that's an excellent place to start, and we can move from there. Denzel just joined in on the Discord. Hello, Denzel. When's the switch to TypeScript happening? I guess when I get, no, it's not happening. No. TypeScript is nonsense. And, well, it's based on, think about what are the virtues of JavaScript. This is a square peg round hole problem. So what you have is a bunch of C# developers. So Microsoft is predominantly who's steering the JavaScript committee. The JavaScript committee has changed hands several times over the decades. And it's never been in the hands of JavaScript developers except for once. There was a period of time from about, I think it was 2008 to 2012 or so, that the people that were on the JavaScript steering committee that were in charge were actually JavaScript developers. Other than that, it's been Ruby developers, it's been C# developers, but it's rarely people who actually code in JavaScript or use the web. And so with Microsoft, they have a bunch of people who they have trained in the Microsoft stack. And so Microsoft's objective is to push, no matter how nonsensical it is, to push C# into JavaScript so that they can have an easier time training their developers on how to write applications in web browsers. Because remember, Microsoft was expecting the web browser war to fail and the internet to be a fad and us all to move on, right? So this is why we have TypeScript. It's not because somebody thought, oh, you know what? As a JavaScript developer, it would be really nice if I could go against everything that's great about JavaScript and do this weird, janky TypeScript language that doesn't even support JavaScript really well instead. It was because you got a company that has lots and lots of, has an army of C# developers, and they want them to be able to continue to program in C#, right? So I think that if you look at Go, there's a perfect pairing for JavaScript. Go and JavaScript go hand in hand. If you wanted a typed version of JavaScript, Go is that, more or less. Again, creedsofcraftsmanship.com. I linked it in the chat before. If you scroll back here in the chat thing, and then also in the doobly-doo for the description on YouTube, I've got creedsofcraftsmanship.com. Lots of good talks there. I'd recommend watching the entire series of Croc on JS. If you want to learn some good JavaScript. First time I've heard an anti-TypeScript argument. Really? I don't know what a pro-TypeScript argument would be. I guess the pro-TypeScript argument is you don't like JavaScript. But JavaScript, this is the thing that bugs me. I think it bugs a number of JavaScript developers. The few of us that there are, because there's not very many JavaScript developers out there. Most people do not know JavaScript and have not learned it. I'm doing a presentation on Thursday called Classless JavaScript, where I'm going to be teaching pure, unadulterated JavaScript. We'll see how it goes. It's kind of hard for me to organize my thoughts. I'm better at divergent thinking than linear thinking, but I'll try to put it together best I can. But you can join in for that. It won't be on this YouTube channel. It'll be on the Utah Node.js YouTube channel, which I think is also linked down in the doobly-doo. But yeah, I don't remember the rest of my thought, actually. But let me do this. We're going to do savvy login. I'm going to pass a username of john@example.com and a password of a secret to everyone. But that said, I wish that the TypeScript linter were better at understanding JavaScript's native types, because it has a lot of really cool tooling that actually is neat. But it doesn't work with JavaScript that well. It's intended to be used with TypeScript, and they are separate languages. TypeScript is not simply a superset of JavaScript. If it were, then the compiler and the tooling would understand JavaScript incredibly well, and it doesn't. Well, it does. It does. It does better than most other tooling. But that's because it is actually going through and then retranspiling everything, essentially from JavaScript. It's doing the C# JavaScript dance. And so because the tooling has to be smart enough to do that introspection, the tooling ends up being smarter than most other JavaScript tooling out there, but it's not focused on being a tool for JavaScript. It's focused on being a tool for C#. Okay, I just got a message that distracted me. All right, so I've got this thing. That's just going to fail. That's perfectly okay. And then I guess let's try that Webpack build again now and see if this works. Yeah, well, again, she says, I've never thought of TypeScript in that way. I'd recommend the Crockford's lecture series, and I'll go ahead and post that. I'm pretty sure I've got it linked from creedsofcraftsmanship.com. So let me just see if I can go grab that real quick. Crockford on JavaScript. I think this has the whole playlist. So this is the last talk, is the better parts. Go watch the whole playlist. And let me see. Okay, here we go. Here's the full series. Okay. Did this run? It did not run. Let's see why. Can't resolve lib request. Lib request. Why can it not resolve lib request? Let's think about this for a second. Lib request.js. Oops. Could resolve it there. I'm a little confused as to why that would be. Anybody that knows Webpack want to give me a hand here? Oops, let me, whoops. I got rid of the, I was too slow and too fast at the same time. All right, mode option has not been set. All right, let's set mode to development. I usually actually prefer just to set it to production, but there shouldn't be a big difference between development and production, but there ends up being a big difference. Okay, so I'm just going to run it again with that gone. Okay, can't resolve query string. Let's double check on that one. Savvy, whoops, index.js, query string. Okay. This is what we're going to need to do for that. I'm going to do lib query string. And then here we're going to do module.exports equals stringify. I think it's just parse and stringify, right? So let's do this. Let query string equals require query string. And I don't know, actually, I don't know that we need this anymore. Hold on, let's check real quick. Some of the Node modules have actually been replaced by W3C modules. So let's do this. Node URL search params. Yeah, okay. So we don't need this module anymore because query string, thank heavens, has made it into the JavaScript standard library. I put that in air quotes because there are too many different organizations that decide what the JavaScript standard library is. And so it's kind of hard to say it's the JavaScript standard library because there's multiple standard libraries for JavaScript depending on which standard you want to follow. But I think it's safe to say we can get rid of query string and we can use URL search params. Let me double check on that. Let's see, URL search, oops. But the problem is they decided to make it iterators, and I complained about this yesterday, so I won't complain about it again today. Oops. But that's a dumb thing to do. Period. The end. You should just be able to use JavaScript in JavaScript. So this should be, what should we call it? Query equals new, and then query dot. Can we do an append all? Because this is my problem. I should just be able to pass in an object, and maybe I can't. Let me try this. Let me see if this will work. Foo bar. This is what I should be able to do. This is the sensical thing that we've all done since the 90s. That should work. But it doesn't. Ah, crap. I made the mistake of using let in a console. Okay. Okay, good. So this does still work. And then can we do query.stringify here? Is it query.toString? It is query.toString, and it does not put the question mark, which is totally fine. Just need to make sure that they shouldn't put the question mark. That's the right way to do it. All right, cool. So what we do here is search new URL search params, put in query or object. URL search params. I actually need to go make another edit to JS hint. Let me go check the comments in just a second here. Oh, no more comments? All right. Cool. I just want to get to JS hint. There is a pull request that I authored. Let me see if I can find author is me. And I should be able to repeat this same pull request. Yeah, so I'm going to go copy this again real quick. And I'm just going to make the same pull request. Let me go check on my fork here. There we go. That's the one I want. Can I tell this fetch upstream? Fetch and merge. It shouldn't be a merge. It should be a rebase. It should say fetch and rebase or merge on failure or something like that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go fix this real quick. So this is a thing that not many people do, which I recommend that you do. When you find that there's a problem that's easy to solve, just go fix it in an open source library, and then you can get your name out there. Well, not necessarily you can get your name out there, but then you can claim that you have committer status. Of the dozens of popular libraries that you might use, well, the hundreds that you might use, I've written a few of them. You can probably find me in one of your package.jsons, but I have edited tons of them, and they're small, little, tiny commits. It's just fixing a small bug. So, like this one, for example, let me go back here. This is the exact same kind of fix as before. So source vars URL, and then I need to go to follow what they're doing here. Let me go do this. I'll get to comments in just a second. Let me finish my train of thought and work. Okay, URL, clear immediate. And I need to say what version search params. Oh, what do we do here? Do I have to readjust all of these? I think I do, don't I? Well, that stinks. This is going to look worse than it is. in terms of, oh, bless me, sorry. Okay, let's go look at Node. So Node.js.org, and I want to look at the docs for sure. Let's just look at the latest version, and let's look at URL search. Oh, when did they add? Let's see. URL search params. This class was added. History. Now available on the global object, version 10. Okay. All right, so that, oh, whoops, don't want to do that. Don't want to reformat everything. That's it. That's my change. And so I'm going to create a new branch. We're going to call this URL search params. And I think some kids outside are throwing dirt at the garage door or something. And I will get to that comment in just a second. Let me just finish this out. Okay, so get diff. Let's look at diff without white space. That's not going to make a difference. Oh, okay, cool. It does. Excellent. All right, so we can look at that. Add source bars. And then the change that we want to make here, we're going to call this what? Fix node v10.0.0 plus supports the URL search params global. There we go. And then I'm going to push origin URL search params. Notice how Fish, you don't have to configure any plugins. Fish supports get auto completion out of the box. All right, and so then when we go back here, that comes up. So I submit my pull request, and I will say similar to, let me bring this one up. Oh, and I should probably link to those as well. Great, same thing. All right. So did I get this? I need the link. Oh, the link's over here for some reason. All right. All's well. Okay. So follow up to history. Is that what I put here? See history in? Yeah. All right. See history at. And then how did I format this one? Add URL. Let's see. Ah, not what I wanted to do. There it is. There we go. Sometimes I hit hide by mistake. All right, let me make sure I spelled that right. URL search params. URL search params. And then down here, it's URL search params. Also adjusted white space for consistency. And then let's double check trailing comma. Yeah, everything's good. Okay. I'm going to create that pull request, and I expect that it will go into a JS hint in the not too far off future, because I've already got a commit in here before. So I've gotten commits in Node, I've gotten commits in JS hint, I've gotten commits in various Vim plugins. Most of them are stupid things like this. But I get to say, hey, I'm a committer to a dozen projects with over 1,000 stars or whatever. Okay, let's go back to comments. What are the best resources for learning JavaScript? Again, I'm going to point to creedsofcraftsmanship.com. Those are the best resources. It's not about learning JavaScript. It's about learning to program. It's about learning to be an engineer. Because if you learn the principles of programming, then you will understand how to use JavaScript. If you go out to learn JavaScript, what you're going to learn is a bunch of hacky ways to do JavaScript, because JavaScript is the most popular language in all of history, which means that it has the largest abundance of really bad resources to learn. And if I were to point you to Go has a succinct set of really good resources to learn from. Rust has a fairly succinct set of really good resources to learn from. In JavaScript, there's not a succinct set of really good resources to learn from, because it is a cannibalizing community where no one can agree, but what they can agree on is, since they all disagree, to do everything in a different way. So most people that are, quote, in the JavaScript community don't use JavaScript. For example, there's probably right now people that are learning, very few people learn JavaScript. Most of them are learning React, right? So that's not learning JavaScript. That's learning a completely different language that shares some similarities with JavaScript, in the same way that TypeScript shares similarities with JavaScript, or that Go shares similarities with C, or so on and so forth. There's lots of languages out that C++ shares similarities with C. C# shares a lot of similarities with Java because it's literally a fork of Java. But anyway, so I don't have a good answer for you on that one, because I don't see really good resources out there. And that was one thing that I wanted to try to do. But like I said earlier, I'm a very divergent thinker, and putting things in the right order is difficult for me when it's on a large scale. So if I was going to teach JavaScript, if I could somehow get my thoughts in the right order so that it presented good lesson material, I would teach a very small language. I wouldn't teach every feature that's ever existed. But again, the Crockford on JavaScript series, I think, is the best. But I've already mentioned that, right? So Crockford on JavaScript is, I think it's the best series because it goes through the history of the language, and Crockford is a true software engineer. He's not somebody who just does things willy-nilly because it's cool. He does things intentionally, and he has defensible reasons for how he codes. And if you look at Dave Cheney, if you look at Matt Ryer, if you look at Rob Pike, if you look at the people, particularly in the Go community, you find a lot of similarities where they have defensible reasons for how they code the way they do. And sometimes they make mistakes, and they can say, yeah, a few years ago we decided to do this. It was a mistake. We recommend doing this now, right? Because you can't get things perfect, because perfection is a concept that can't really be arrived at. But anyway, I hope that that's helpful. And if you find something, please make a comment on creedsofcraftsmanship.com and say, hey, I thought that this was particularly good. Jay says, I appreciate the strongly opinionated and educated perspective. Well, you are welcome. I will certainly give you strong opinions. But the people that I like, some of them are a little bit softer. I would say that Rob Pike, for example, is a little softer spoken. And Dave Cheney is a little softer spoken. But they have strong opinions and they stick to them. Crockford is a little bit more abrasive in the way that I am, where he says, this is what it is, and it's what it should be, and anybody who thinks otherwise is an idiot. And he's not wrong. He and I actually disagree on a couple of things. I've never met him in person, but I'm just saying from his talks, there's a couple of things where I think, yeah, I don't know. But the points where we argue are kind of, or not that we argue because we don't argue in person, but the points where he and I have different philosophies, at least they're headed in the same direction in terms of we're trying to get towards how do you code better with fewer tools, or with not fewer tools, but with less necessity for tools, right? That's kind of the thing. And so I think that there can be engineers that have differing beliefs, but at least they're defensible. It's not about, oh, well, this is really cool. It's about this works really well and guarantees correct programs. And sometimes there's trade-offs. Well, there's always trade-offs, but sometimes two people that are both good, really good engineers will have vehemently different opinions about something. But they both have a defensible reason of where they prefer a particular trade-off that leads towards good code. Either one leads towards good code. There's a lot of trade-offs out there that lead towards bad code. And people prefer them because it's my artistic thing. And don't let your art be your code. Let your art be what you create. Sounds a bit like the military. I don't know anything about the military. And because there's a little bit of lag between when I'm ranting and when I see what's on the screen, I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Whether that was, you're talking about Crockford or you're talking about me. Okay, so URL search params. Let me go ahead and add this to my JS hint RC. I think it's, we just had global, was it globals? I don't remember exactly how this works, but URL search params and true. Okay. Is this it? Yeah. Okay, cool. So just so you catch what I did there, as a stopgap, I just put this in here. So I went and I made the pull request. It'll come down in a fairly recent next version of JS Hint. I have full confidence that the author will approve that pull request. But this should be part of Node. If you say Node is true, then URL search params should be included. It shouldn't complain, hey, I don't know where this came from. Because the error message that it's giving is URL search params is not defined, but it is defined because we know this is Node code. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so that's good. So this all looks good. I don't know why it's complaining that it can't find that thing. My guess is going to be if we look in the Webpack config, it might be resolving. Let's see, here's the entry. We're telling it to go into app.js. File name is app.js. I don't know what this other stuff means, actually. I wonder if resolution changed in Webpack 5. But I'm not really... Yeah, again, if somebody knows Webpack and can help me out here, I have not used Webpack 5, I don't think, ever. And last time I used it, it was Webpack 4, and I think that was kind of the new thing. And now we're at Webpack 5, and that's the new thing. So I'd appreciate the help if you know what to do. But the question is, I have here examples, app.js. I'm doing this require, and it seems to be correctly traversing up to index.js. But then when it's doing a require for lib request.js, oh, you know what? I think I know what it might be. I think it may be that I forgot to put the dot slashes in here. I think that might be important. Let's try that. Okay, now let's try Webpack again. Where did I lose it? There it is. npx Webpack CLI build. Oh, sweet. It built. All right, and so we should have a dist folder with an app.js. Cool beans. So now, if inside of our dist folder, what if we just link to... I'm not sure what the right way to go about this is. Should it be public dist? Maybe it should be public dist. Let's take a look at doing that. So let's say it's public dist. Okay. And then let's say that under public, I can have an index.html, and then here, I really need to have a better boilerplate for this. Maybe I'll do that today, nowish. Let's see, head. One thing that you should always have, either in the head or in the HTML tag, is char set equals, or in the meta tag or the HTML tag is char set equals UTF-8. I think that's how we do this. It actually makes a difference. It can actually cause your JavaScript code to not run if you're missing this, especially if you have any emojis in your JavaScript, which seems kind of like maybe a dumb thing to do, but you know, we all have fun. There's also a plugin that I haven't been using that maybe I should use called Emmet that makes it so that it You basically do something like this and then hit tab, and then it will autofill out put the tags on and everything. But anyway, let's go ahead and we'll do script. And what's one weird thing about script tags is you cannot do a self-closing script tag in the way that you might do an image tag. So you say script source equals whatever. This is invalid. And I don't know why it's still invalid, because I don't think correcting it to work the same way as other HTML tags work would break anything. But for some reason, we have to write it this way because history of things. So let's go dist app.js. And then I'm going to put on here, we're going to have a form. And let me go grab the style tag for MVP CSS. This is, I recommend using classless CSS wherever you can. There's not a lot of, there's not an abundance of resources on classless CSS, but that kind of means that the ones that there are actually pretty decent. And MVP.css is the kind of the best out-of-box classless CSS. So by classless CSS, I mean you just do things the way that you'd normally do them and they work. And you'll see what I mean by that in just a second. But I think we need a main area here. You could call it classless CSS or semantic CSS. And we're going to have an input, which is going to be, this is going to be text. We're going to call this name equals, actually, this is going to be type equals email. And then we're going to have password. So we'll call it password and type will be password. And remember, when you do labels, you will hardly see any tutorial. I've tried to fix a few of them. Maybe I need to go take a look at MDN again. I don't know if I made a change there, if it got accepted or not. But the way that label is meant to be used is you're supposed to wrap the input with the label. So labels should be used like this. Anytime you see somebody using a for with a label, they're doing it wrong. There are very few cases where your label should be separate from your input. And a lot of people build really complex components because they just don't know that the label will do a lot of the things that you need something to do. So a label defines the target size of an input. So where the clickable area of the input is. Even if you don't want to have any text in the label, just using a label like this allows you to define where it is clickable. And this works for all sorts of things. You can also, one of the rare situations where you'd want a label somewhere else is if, for example, let's say you wanted an upload input. Oh my gosh, it's taken me so long to learn about this. So if you want an upload input, let's say this is, I'm just going to put this here as an example. I'll check comments in just a second. So let's say I basically wanted this to disappear. So we're going to do position absolute top negative 1 million pixels. Okay. This is where we would have a for, and in this case, I think I might have to have an ID. I always start my IDs with a hyphen so that they don't go into the JavaScript namespace. Or, well, they still go into the JavaScript namespace, but so that it's less likely that there will be a problem. Okay, so we're going to create button. Sorry, I'm doing this a little bit weird. It'll make sense in just a second. So if you want to style a button, this is all you have to do. And you'll see this in just a second. It will blow your mind. All right, so I'm going to open up public index.html. So check this out, upload. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, I know why it didn't work. So inside of a form, this is a weird thing. Inside of a form, the default behavior of a button, is submit. So we need to do type equals button. It seems that the type of a button would be button by default, but it isn't. Okay. So I might be lying to you. We'll find out in just a second. Does that work? Oh, no, it doesn't. So I got it a little bit wrong, but I think the simplest way to style this is to put let's see. Let me try one other thing. Let me just make sure. Oh, type equals file. Sorry, not type equals upload. There we go. Now let me try this. Okay, so this one is being shown. Obviously, that gives the file selector. And then, oh, it's not working. I don't know about that. I'm not going to go into it further because that's not what I'm here for today. But there's, I might be mistaken, but I think that's the, you can use a synthetic mouse event, or no, is it UI event? You can use synthetic events to style it, but you can also do something like that. I just forget what it is off the top of my head. I should go look it up because I saw somebody do something like this and I thought, oh, duh. Anyway, let me look here. What do we got? Yep, Emmet is a pretty cool and very useful thing to add to your toolkit, in my opinion. What is the JS namespace? Okay, so I think I don't remember exactly what words I used, but it's let me go ahead and do this. So ID equals email, and I showed this problem last night, but I'll show it again. So let me refresh here, and then let me do this. Let me open up the console. So I just did the Command-Shift-I to open up the console. Now, what do you think would happen if I were to say if email, then console.log your email, sir? What should happen in this code? I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it. 4, 3, 2, 1. What should happen is that you should get an error that email is not defined, because we just wrote there's no JavaScript on this page. This is the only JavaScript we've written. We have not defined any variable for email. Instead, what we get is true. It evaluates to true. So when you create an ID, it pollutes the JavaScript global namespace. So meaning, if we look for window.email, it exists. So don't ever use IDs. I have yet to find a reason why anyone would ever need to use an ID or it would even be useful. It is always detrimental to have an ID on an input. Well, no, I lied about that, because there's this right here. There's this particular case where the label... Actually, you know, I wonder what would happen if I just did this. Sorry, I'm going to go down this rabbit hole just for 1 second further. Maybe it was this. Maybe it was that the label itself is styled as a button. I'm going to check that and see. Okay, so... that was it. Okay. Indeed, that was it. So you can do a label, and you could do... Let me think about this for a second. Style equals border 1px red solid. I'm not going to put the radius on there and all that, but you could see that you can style this label as a button. And if you style the label as a button, this is the one case, the only case that I've come across where this is useful, where you literally want the input element to be somewhere other than inside the label, is for the upload, because it gives you the ability to create a button that you can style. And this is one, this is the $1 million, this is the $1 million tidbit. If you got nothing out of this, if anything deserves a thumbs up in this today, it's learning that right there, because you will come across so many cases where people, and I did this at first because I didn't know this for years and years and years and years and years. People will come up with the most convoluted ways to try to style a file input. And it is so daggone simple. And you will have the hardest time learning that from anybody. But I've had to do synthetic events. I've done having the input chase the cursor. There's all sorts of ways that I myself have done this over the years. And this is the right way to do it. And it's so incredibly simple. Labels are probably the least understood and one of the most powerful tools in your HTML tool belt. Because they give you so much good UX. But anyway, I am going to do one little thing here. I am going to download this. I'm going to create a vendor folder. So we're going to do public vendor, and then I'm going to create a little install.sh, and we're going to curl. Sure, we'll just grab that whole thing there. That's fine. We're going to curl this, and we're going to output it to public vendor mvp.css. Doot, doot, doot. All right, and now we're going to go public index.html, and let's change this to vendor mvp.css. And whoops. One of the reasons that I wanted to do this is because I actually do want to change where button is. Label.button. I'm going to put that in here as well. So now, if I go back to this, label class equals button, I'm going to get rid of this style. Oh, it didn't quite work. Didn't quite work 100%. Probably because something's still missing. Button. Here we go. Button. Oh, okay. Label active. Is that going to work? Label hover. I think I am the one that made one of these changes. I don't remember if it was this one or this one. But one of these changes I actually made and committed to the repo for this. Is there anything else? Button. Okay. Button. Oh, wait. Ooh. All right, cool. So now if I refresh this, there we go. Now our label is truly a button. Now that is not classless CSS. Well, that's about as good as we can do, you know, given what we got. Let's see. It's going to return the element. Oh, okay. So Greek bonds, yes, you knew what it was going to do. That was probably a couple minutes ago. So sorry for that. Anyway, let's take a look at the inputs here and let's see what have we actually got going on. Nothing yet. File not found. Oh, because I didn't compile it. So let's do npx webpack CLI build. So we'll get this out of the way. This little label trick is something that I need to share with my coworkers. Because, like I said, things get so convoluted, especially in React, because people just layer and layer and layer. Just because you have the ability to have infinite nestings of components doesn't mean that that is going to be useful. Doesn't mean that's something that you should do or something that's even helpful at all. If you learn HTML and JavaScript, you can use so many other tools in such a light way that is more resilient and more likely to work in more situations. Because the browser vendors actually do a pretty good job of making sure that stuff is bug-free. If you write your own button components with all these special behaviors, and you're not going to do as good of a job as just using the built-in tools. Most likely. There's some cases where the built-in tools fail, but usually they don't. All right, failed to execute fetch on window. Let's see. Window.fetch. So I'm going to gripe about this. Let me go see if I can find out. This is probably a Webpack bug. Webpack window.fetch. So I think what's happening here, by the way, js.org is a domain that you can host anything on for free. So especially if you're a newbie, you want to put up some documentation for something, you can get it claimed for js.org. Now, obviously that means that it is not in your control because somebody else owns it, but it's kind of a nice little branding bit. And it's just kind of cool. Is this on there? Yeah, it is. So lots of people are using js.org. Okay, I don't know what this means. Shimming. We don't recommend using globals. I don't care. I want to be able, the whole concept behind Webpack is allow you to be more modular. Yes, but I'm specifying a front-end file in which I know the globals are going to be available. So I do want to use globals. I don't want globals to be broken. Okay, so let's see. Webpack breaks window. I wonder if there's a way to stop this behavior. Okay, that's actually correct. So that's a bug in Chart.js, not a bug in Webpack. Okay, here we go. Oh, maybe I was looking at the right page. They call it shimming. That seems like the wrong thing. Externals. Let's see what they say. You flipping kidding me? Really? I just want it to be able to work. Whatever. That's already in the... Blah. I don't like it when people add abstractions that break things that were working. You know, if you add an abstraction on top of something that, in my mind, that the abstraction should really just be an extension. You should be able to use the thing that already worked. But then you also have more stuff that you can use. So breaking window actually kind of upsets me. And this is 2014. Who knows? This might be Webpack 2 or something. Let me take a look at this shimming bit. Let's see what it says. We don't recommend using globals. Shimming globals. Webpack equals Webpack. Do we have anything with window? Window. Okay, maybe let me see. Maybe something else is wrong. Let me take a look here and let me look at the comments. Oh wow! Hello everybody. Welcome. I'm AJ. I'd love to know where you're coming from. What brings you to the channel tonight? Yeah, I don't know. Also, I'll give you all a link. Anybody that wants to join in on the Discord. Let me give you the Discord link again since we got a lot of people. Discord. Boop. And also, you know, as you're coming and going, if you like it, give it a like. If you don't like it, dislike it. And if you do like it, share with someone you like. But if you don't like it, share with someone that you don't like. Everybody wins. Okay, let's see. Webpack. Shimming globals. Granular shimming. Global exports. Here we go. Globals. Come on. All right, I'm going to go back to looking at the code. Let me go look at the error message. What do we got here? Failed to execute fetch on window. It has a capital W, which makes me think that maybe I just mistyped. Stupid me. Request with get head cannot have a body. Okay, that's my own stupid fault. I didn't finish reading the error message. I thought it was saying that it couldn't execute I only read the first line, and it said it couldn't execute fetch on global. I was thinking that it literally could not execute. Not that the execution then failed, but that it, period, could not execute. Let me go read that again. Failed to execute fetch on global. So it's not, the wording is precise here. And it says type error, which doesn't make sense. Type error would make sense if it was, say, undefined rather than a function. That's what we normally get there. Anyway, so let me see where this comes from. 56. So lib request. No, that's not what I want. I want index. And then 56, right? Return, await, request, JSON, right. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. This is a really simple fix. This is done all over the place. If ops.method, so if not ops.method, because the default method is get. There we go. That'll fix that. Okay, let's Webpack it and try again. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, I've got way too many tabs open here. Let me just close some of this stuff out. Okay. Oh, we do need that. Just getting rid of tabs that I've got too many tabs open here. Okay, so I take it all back. It was my stupidity. Webpack didn't do anything wrong. I'm used to things like Webpack breaking things that did work. I've gotten bug requests on my JavaScript libraries that were written perfectly well, that are written to spec, and so it's just a little bit of that latent, damage and I forget, need for therapy, just shining through. Okay, so get branch. Okay, we just need to refresh, right? And then we should get an error. Okay. Oh, this is from file. Okay, so what I do need, at the very least, is I need to have I need to be serving this. I'm going to do this inside of my public directory. Yeah, why not? Let's do 808005, sure. But what if I don't actually want it to do the local TLS? Let me try this. Huh. Let me do help, maybe. File server help. Domain. Root templates. I think I'm going to just have to do HTTPS and see how it fares. Huh. Okay, I don't actually want Caddy in this particular instance. Well, yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to do my old DuckDNS trick. So I'm going to go sign into DuckDNS. Sorry, I'm doing that in the other screen. I'm going to create a new subdomain. I'm just going to call it local. Let's see if it'll let me add this. I'll be so surprised. Yeah. Let's try local host. Let's try local 234. Local. I'm going to call it local 22. Local 88. I bet that's taken as well. Oh, local 88. Great. 127.0.0.1. Let's see. Okay. Command-V caddy. Let's see which caddy we got here. Good. So this caddy is built with DuckDNS support. So now I just need a little caddy file. And we're just going to do... I'm just going to go ahead and show you my token because I can regenerate it. Anyway, it's not a big deal. But we're going to do local88.duckdns.org. And we're going to serve this on port 8805. And we're going to say root is, what is it, /public, I think is what we want. I'm going to go have to look at my cheat sheet. But TLS, DNS, duck DNS, boom. And there's my little update token for that. I'm going to check out my cheat sheet. Web install.dev, caddy, and my little copy pasto. Reverse proxy, I don't care about that right now. That's all I want, right? Route, rewrite. File matchers, relative, file server. I'm just going to copy the whole thing. Yeah, I'll just copy it all. I don't need it all, but I'm just going to copy it all. Oh, bother. Okay, there we go. All right, good enough. And then this needs to be, let's see if we can do /public. I'm not sure if that'll work, but I want to try it. So let's say caddy run config caddy file. Let's see. I was playing around with caddy earlier. I probably still have yes. So I actually need to sudo launch control unload -w library launch daemons stripe. That actually should be gone already. Let me just kill all caddy. That's probably just left over. Oh, no, I know where that is. Launch control unload -w launch agents stripe. There we go. Yes, that was the thing right there. And we can get rid of that. That was just temporary. Okay, sorry, a little bit of a tangent. Oh, but this isn't going to work anyway. Dang it. Okay, fine. Fine. Server.js. I just set this up real quick. It's not going to work anyway because it's not actually localhost. It's just a domain that begins with local. Oh, uh-oh. What's going on here? My system has run out of application memory. How is that possible? OBS, 66 gigabytes. All right, so I need to figure out what's going on with OBS. Let's see, OBS is still using a crap ton of... Let me see if we can I switch? to what could possibly, do I need to unload a plugin? Is there some plugin that's reloading over and over and over again? Can I turn this off? What if I stop this? Stop that plugin. Automatic scene switcher, output timer. Could my timer be out of control? Yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to quit because OBS is using up all the RAMs. Okay, well, I will rejoin momentarily.